Welcome to the Sleep Paralysis tapes. Settle into the dark, pull the covers close, and let the heavy silence fill your room. Tonight, we descend into chilling tales of the unexplained. Before the screen fades to pitch black, I invite you to become part of this archive. If you have your own terrifying encounters, please contact me and I will narrate your story in a future tape. If these shadows bring you comfort, please like, subscribe, and tap the bell. Now, close your eyes. Do not look at the foot of your bed. Just listen and let us begin. It was supposed to be a good weekend. Mark and Lisa Chen came home on a Sunday night in October. They'd been to a friend's wedding in Little Rock. It had been relaxing and normal, the kind of trip you take to remind yourself that life can be simple. They pulled into their driveway just after 8. Their house was a modern 2-story home, a smart home. The kind that greets you. As Mark carried their bags to the front door, the porch light turned on automatically. A soft chime sounded inside. The lock opened with a smooth, electronic click. It was a sound they associated with safety and control. They stepped inside, and the house woke up. Soft lighting glowed along the floor. The thermostat, knowing they were back, began warming the house. It was all very quiet and efficient. This is where the story starts, in the ordinary. Lisa went to the kitchen. Mark hauled the suitcase to the bedroom. They went through the rituals of return. The washing machine hummed to life. The TV was turned on for background noise. They ordered Thai food because, as Lisa pointed out, the fridge would be empty. And that's when she mentioned it. She was leaning against the counter, scrolling through her phone. "Huh," she said. "What?" Mark asked, sorting mail. "The security app. It sent an alert last night. A power outage." Mark shrugged. He walked to the refrigerator and opened it. The light was bright. There was a half-gallon of milk, some spinach, and leftovers. He picked up the milk, sniffed it, and made a face. "Yeah, well, there was that huge storm. Must have knocked the transformer or something. The fridge reset. We lost the milk and everything else." He said it like it was the only casualty. A minor inconvenience. A pint of bad milk. Lisa put her phone down. "It says the outage lasted almost 4 hours. From about 9 until after 1 in the morning. See? Storm." Mark tossed the milk carton into the sink. "The system's on a battery backup, right?" So it just logged the event. Probably just blipped on and off. He was right, of course. A reasonable person would think exactly that. A storm, a power outage, a logged notification. These things happen. Lisa nodded, seeming to accept it. She picked up her phone again and dismissed the notification. It was a simple gesture, a flick of the thumb. "I wish that was the end of it. I really do. But you need to understand something about these systems. When the power fails and the world goes dark, they don't just sleep. They watch in a different way. The battery backup keeps the cameras recording, but only if they're triggered. No steady stream, just snapshots of the darkness waiting for a change." And that night, in the complete blackness, something changed enough to trigger the motion sensors. Not once. Not twice. 17 times. Mark didn't know that yet. He was annoyed about the spoiled food. He was thinking about work the next morning. He was listening to the familiar, automated sounds of his house. He walked to the front door out of habit and checked the deadbolt. It was secure. He placed his hand against the cool wood. Everything was solid. Everything was as they had left it. Outside, the night was clear and quiet. The storm had moved on. It had washed everything clean. But it left something behind. Inside the house, in the little black box of the security system, a log was waiting. 17 silent video files. And 1 audio recording. Mark would find the videos the next day. He wouldn't find the audio for another week. By then it would be too late to forget the way the door had felt under his hand that night. Solid and locked and utterly, completely meaningless. The next morning, the the notification was still there in the back of Mark's mind, like a pebble in a shoe. He sat at his desk in the home office, his coffee cooling beside him. The police hadn't been called. Lisa had already left for her shift at the clinic. The house was quiet. Just the hum of his computer and the gentle, automated sigh of the HVAC. A normal Monday. He told himself he was just being thorough, a responsible homeowner. He logged into the security portal. The event log was a simple list. Date, time, sensor. He clicked on the entry for the power outage. Then, he saw the submenu. It said, Motion events during system event, 17. 17. That number felt wrong. A power flicker might cause one false trigger, maybe two, not 17. He clicked on the first file. It was a 10-second clip, time-stamped 9:47 p.m. It was almost completely black. Then a brilliant, silent flash of white light filled the frame. Lightning. Somewhere in the distance. It illuminated the living room for a fraction of a second. Empty sofa. Clean floors. The television, a dark rectangle on the wall. Then blackness again. Clip 2. 10:12 p.m. Another lightning flash. The same view. The same view. Empty. Clip 3. 10:31 p.m. Flash. Empty. This is where a reasonable person would have stopped. They'd have seen an empty room, a storm, and closed the browser. They'd have gotten more coffee. They'd have gone on with their day. Mark didn't stop. Clip 4. Empty. Clip 5. Empty. He was starting to feel foolish. Of course it was empty. The system was just glitching, triggering on the lightning itself. He took a sip of his coffee. It was lukewarm. Clip 6. 11:19 p.m. The lightning flashed. The room was not empty. A tall, thin shape stood beside the sofa. It was just a silhouette, a cutout of deeper black against the gray-lit room. No details. Just a vertical line, slightly too narrow, slightly too tall. It was facing the camera, or rather, where the camera was hidden in the bookshelf. Then the light was gone. The clip ended. Mark didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stared at the now frozen black rectangle on his screen. His mind scrambled. A trick of the light. A shadow from the window. It had to be. His hand was trembling as he moved the mouse. He clicked. Clip 7. 11:34 p.m. Flash. The shape was in the archway that led to the hallway, closer to the camera's position. Still, just a silhouette. Still perfectly still. Clip 8. 11:51 p.m. Flash. It was in the middle of the room, halfway between the archway and the camera. It seemed to be turned slightly, its head tilted, as if listening. Mark's mouth was dry. The comfortable hum of the house felt like a lie. The air in the office felt thin, used up. He clicked through the next clips in a terrible, silent progression. A flip book of intrusion. Clip 9, the shape by the fireplace. Clip 10, at the foot of the stairs. Clip 11, beside the dining table. Each time, the lightning caught it frozen in a new location, never moving in the light, only in the darkness between. It was methodical. It was patient. Clip 15. It was in the foreground, so close its form was blurred, indistinct. A dark pillar blocking the view of the room behind it. Clip 16. The timestamp read 1:06 a.m. 1 minute before the power was restored, the lightning came. The living room was empty. The figure was gone. Mark let out a shaky breath he didn't know he'd been holding. A hysterical thought bubbled up. It left. It's over. It's gone. He clicked the final file. Clip 17. 1:07 a.m. The power had just come back. The overhead lights in the living room were on, harsh, sudden, fluorescent. The room was still empty. But the front door, the wide, modern front door was open. Not just unlocked, swung wide open on its hinges. Beyond it, nothing but the black mouth of the stormy night. Rain gleamed on the porch floor under the glare of the indoor light. The door they had found locked and secure when they came home. The door Mark had touched, feeling its solidness. It had been open for who knows how long. The video ended. The screen went back to the event list. Mark sat perfectly still in his ergonomic chair. He could hear the blood rushing in his ears. He could hear the gentle, stupid chirp of a bird outside the window. A normal sound. He looked slowly from his computer screen to the open doorway of his office. The hallway beyond was bright and empty. He looked at the corner of the room where the wall met the ceiling, and for the first time, he wondered what the camera in here had seen that night. Mark didn't call out. He didn't scream for Lisa. He just sat there, his hand frozen on the mouse, staring at the empty doorway of his office. The silence in the house was no longer comfortable. It was a held breath. Then a sound broke the spell. The soft, automated chime of the washing machine finishing its cycle. A normal sound. He lunged from his chair so fast it rolled back and slammed into the bookshelf. He didn't care. He ran into the hallway. "Lisa!" She was in the kitchen, rinsing a coffee cup. She turned, startled by the raw panic in his voice. "What? What's wrong?" He couldn't form the words. He just grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the living room. He pointed at the front door. It was open. In the last video, the door was wide open. Lisa stared at him, then at the door. Her practical medical mind tried to catch up. "What are you talking about?" "We checked it. It was locked." "The footage from the outage," he said, his words tumbling out. "There was someone in here. Moving through the rooms." And then the door. It was just open. Now she saw his face. The pallor. The sweat on his forehead. This wasn't a glitch. This was terror. Her own fear, cold and immediate, rose to meet his. Together, they did what anyone would do. They searched the house. This wasn't a casual look around. It was a frantic, room-by-room invasion of their own privacy. They threw open closet doors, yanked back shower curtains, and dropped to their knees to look under beds. Mark even pulled the attic ladder down and scanned the insulation with his phone's flashlight. Nothing. Every belonging was in its place. Lisa's jewelry box, the watches, the small safe, all untouched. The silverware was neat in its drawer. The television was still on the wall. There was no sign of a struggle, no muddy footprint, no displaced cushion. The absence of theft was worse than theft. It made no sense. If not robbery, then what? Lisa called the police. Her voice was clinical and strained as she gave the address. Mark stood by the front door, his hand on the same spot he'd touched the night before. The solid wood felt like a taunt. 2 officers arrived. They were polite and professional. They listened as Mark showed them the videos on his computer. He watched their faces as the silhouette appeared in clip 6. He saw the subtle shift, the professional interest, the slight tightening around the eyes. They dusted the front door handle and the window frames. No prints that shouldn't be there. No tool marks, no scratches near the deadbolt. The lead officer, a man with tired eyes, asked to see the system logs. "See," Mark said, pointing. "The door sensor. It should show when it was disengaged." The officer leaned in. "It says here the log file for that sensor is corrupted for the duration of the outage, from 9:14 p.m. to 1:07 a.m. Just garbled data." "But the video shows it open," Lisa insisted, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "It does," the officer agreed. He straightened up. "And the footage is concerning, but without physical evidence and with the sensor log being unreadable," he trailed off, choosing his words. "These smart systems are complicated. A power surge can do strange things. Corrupt one file, make another file show anomalies." Mark heard what he wasn't saying. Glitch. Anomaly. Words that meant they couldn't explain it, so they wouldn't try. The officers gave them a case number, Bentonville PD, case number 2023-045871. They classified it as unlawful entry with no theft. They advised them to change their passcodes and to be vigilant. Standard advice. It sounded hollow in the bright, clean space of their violated home. After they left, the silence returned. But it was a different silence now. It was the silence of a verdict. The police had found nothing because there was nothing to find. No motive, no method, no reason. The violation was complete and utterly senseless. Their home, this shell of safety and routine, had been entered. Someone or something had walked through their living room, stood beside their sofa, listened in their hallway, and then it had left, leaving the door open like a final, silent exhalation. They were left with a case number, a collection of impossible video files, and a new, permanent understanding. The locks didn't matter. The lights didn't matter. Something had been inside with them, in the dark, and it hadn't wanted their things. It had just wanted to be there. And that is a different kind of fear altogether. It's the fear that lives in the absence of an answer, in the clean, untouched space where a reason should be. A week passed. The case went cold. The police stopped calling. Life, on the surface, resumed its rhythm. Lisa went to work. Mark went to work. They ordered takeout. They watched TV. They did not talk about the silhouette in the living room. But Mark couldn't let it go. The silence was worse than the fear. The absence of an answer was a noise all its own. A high-pitched whine in the back of his skull. He told the officers about the audio. They'd shrugged. The one with the tired eyes said, "Probably just system noise. Corrupted files make all sorts of sounds." Mark knew about corrupted files. He worked in data. Corrupted files hissed. They popped. They did not whisper. It was a Thursday night. Lisa was on a late shift at the clinic. The house was too quiet. He sat at his desk, the same desk where he'd watched the 17 silent frames. He pulled up the security portal again. He navigated past the video files, which he couldn't bring himself to watch again. He found the system logs. And there it was. A single unplayed audio file, time-stamped to match the outage. A WAV file, 4 hours and 17 minutes long. 4 hours of darkness captured by the small, sensitive microphone in the living room's motion sensor. He plugged in his headphones, the good ones, the ones that sealed out the world. He clicked play. For the first hour, it was just rain. A static, relentless hiss against the windows and the roof. The occasional distant rumble of thunder. The creak of the house settling. Normal sounds. The sounds of an empty house in a storm. He began to scrub. Fast-forwarding through the gray noise, his eyes were on the waveform display. A flat, jagged line of rain static. Then he saw it. A spike. A cluster of peaks in the waveform, subtle but distinct, buried deep in the rain. He stopped scrubbing. He rewound a few seconds. He hit play. Rain. Always the rain. And then, beneath it, a voice. It was a whisper. A dry, papery sound, strained low to be almost inaudible. But the microphone had caught it. It was a man's voice, but thin. Reedy. "She's on the 7 to 3 this week, the clinic. Always the Thursday late shift." Mark's blood turned to ice in his veins. He stopped the file. He took off the headphones as if they'd burned him. He stared at the waveform, those little peaks. That was Lisa's schedule. Her exact schedule. He put the headphones back on. His hands were shaking. He let it play. A second voice answered. This one was different. Smoother, lower, but still a whisper. "The spare room is just storage. Boxes. No one goes in there. The blind spot by the hall closet is good. 5 seconds from the master bedroom door." They were discussing his house. Their house. the layout, their routines. The voices were calm, methodical, completely intimate. He listened, frozen as the whispers continued. They were punctuated by long stretches of that awful hissing rain. One voice listed the groceries they'd bought before their trip, the brand of toothpaste they used. The other noted the pattern of the porch light, how long it stayed on after the door opened. They weren't guessing. They were reporting. The conversation drifted. They talked about the last one, a house on the other side of the development, how the husband had slept through the whole thing, how the dog had been quiet. Mark felt a nausea so profound he had to put his head between his knees. He was breathing in ragged gasps. They had done this before. The audio file played on. The whispers fell silent for a long time. Just rain. Then the smoother voice spoke again, clearer now. Check the time. A rustle. Then the first, reedy voice. Lights in 3, a beat of silence. 2. Mark's grip on the desk was so tight his knuckles were white. 1. A soft electronic hum bloomed in the recording. A faint digital chirp, the sound of the security system rebooting. The lights coming back on. The audio file ended. Mark sat there in the silent house. The hum of his own computer was the only sound. The whispers were gone, replaced by the memory of them. They were inside his head now. He looked from his computer screen to the open doorway of his office. The hallway beyond was bright, empty. He thought of the blind spot by the hall closet, 5 seconds from the master bedroom door. He thought of Lisa coming home from her Thursday late shift. He understood now. The figure in the videos wasn't lost. It wasn't confused. It was learning. It was being guided. And the thing that guided it, it wasn't in the room with the lightning. It was in the dark, whispering. Mark played the audio for Lisa that night. He didn't want to. He wanted to burn it. But he had to show her. He had to prove he wasn't losing his mind. He watched her face as she listened. He saw the color drain from it. He saw the moment she recognized her own schedule in that dry, reedy whisper. Her hand went to her mouth. She didn't make a sound. When it finished, she took the headphones off as if they were made of spiders. She placed them gently on the desk. She looked at him, her eyes wide and hollow. They were talking about me. That was it. The last piece of sanctuary was gone. They didn't call the police again. What would they say? We found whispers. The case was already closed. The officers with the tired eyes would have just nodded and said it was system noise. So they took matters into their own hands. Mark logged into the security system's admin panel. His fingers, cold and clumsy, found the audio settings. He disabled the microphone. He disabled the logging. He turned off every feature that listened. He didn't just turn it off. He deleted the user profiles. He factory reset the base unit. He wanted it dumb. He wanted it blind. It didn't help. Paranoia isn't a switch you can flip off. It's a seep. It gets into everything. Lisa started sleeping with the lights on. Not just a nightlight, the overhead light, the bathroom, the hallway. Their bedroom blazed like a surgical theater all night long. She jumped at the house's normal sounds. The thump of the water heater kicking on was no longer a thump. It was a footstep. The creak of the floorboards under the carpet was no longer a creak. It was the sound of someone shifting their weight, waiting just outside the door. Mark began checking places. Not just once. Ritualistically. He would check the lock on the front door, then the back door, then the lock again. Then he would stand in the hallway, listening. He'd check the closet, then the lock again. It could take him 20 minutes just to leave the house. The violation wasn't of their property. It was of their privacy, their routine, their most mundane, unthinking moments. Brushing their teeth, making coffee, watching television. Every one of those moments had been discussed in the dark by 2 calm, whispering voices. Their home was no longer a place. It was a subject, a file, a case study. And that's the thing you need to understand. The figure in the lightning flashes wasn't a thief. A thief wants your things. He's in and out. He has a reason you can understand. This was different. The figure was a scout, a surveyor, moving through their space with a terrible, patient purpose, learning the angles, timing the routes, and the whispers were its partners. The ones in the command center, the ones with the clipboard, the ones who knew when Lisa worked late and where the blind spots were. They weren't just robbed, they were researched. 6 months later, they moved out. They broke their lease and paid the penalty. It was worth every penny. They told the landlord there had been a break-in. They didn't mention the whispers. The last time Mark was in that house, he was doing a final walkthrough. The rooms were empty and echoing. The walls were bare. Sunlight streamed through the big, clean windows. He stood in the middle of the living room on the spot where the silhouette had stood. He looked toward the bookshelf where the camera had been, and he felt it then, more clearly than ever. A feeling of being observed, not by a person, by the space itself. As if the house had absorbed the visit, as if the drywall and the floorboards and the empty air had remembered the shape that moved through them and the voices that had filled the dark. It was a feeling that the new owners would probably never get. They would hang their pictures. They would laugh in the kitchen. They would sleep soundly. But Mark knew. He knew that for one night, during a blackout, their home hadn't been empty. It had been occupied. And the things that had occupied it hadn't come for the silverware. They had come for the blueprint. And once you know that, once you really understand that, you never feel alone in the dark again. Even when you are. Especially when you are. Because the dark isn't empty. It's just waiting for the next survey to begin. The tape has reached its end. I hope the stories tonight brought a pleasant chill to your spine as you drifted further into the dark. Thank you for braving the shadows here at the Sleep Paralysis tapes. If you are still awake, lying still in the quiet, remember to contact me with your own unsettling encounters so they can be added to our growing archive. As my voice fades away, let the silence of your room wrap around you completely. May your sleep be undisturbed, your doors remain locked, and your morning arrive safely. Until we open the tapes again, good night.